Hi, I'm Jaymie.
Hi, I'm Gemma.
And this is the Body Smart Podcast.
In this episode, we're talking weight loss plateaus. We discuss the physiological and the psychological reasons behind why weight loss might stall for you. We're also going to touch on metabolic adaptation, starvation mode, and how to track your calories accurately. So, if you've ever thought you're in a calorie deficit and you're not losing weight and it's driving you insane, you need to listen to this episode. Selfishly, I'm going to use this podcast episode for myself because it's a burning question that I've saved for today.
Okay.
But I think it's a burning question that a lot of people ask. I know people ask this us on Instagram, in the inbox. Weight loss plateau.
Yes.
Jaymie Moran, guru of Body Smart Fitness. How the heck do we get over a weight loss plateau?
There's lots of ways to get over a weight loss plateau. It is a very common question that a lot of people ask.
We should actually say, what is a weight loss plateau? For somebody who might have just tuned in, like, I don't understand what that means. What does it mean?
So if you're actively trying to lose weight and you have been losing weight, what can happen is over a couple of months or even a couple of years in some cases, for some reason, your weight just plateaus. And there's a whole host of different reasons why this might be. But people are like, oh, I'm still taking the same actions, but for some reason my weight stopped. And there's a psychological and a physiological reason behind this. And we can get into both around why this happens.
Okay. Where do you want to start? Psychological or physiological?
I think, we'll get into metabolic adaptation and all these different physiological things. I think people actually jump to this a little bit too soon. Not in your case, I don't actually believe.
Oh my goodness. That's refreshing.
Yeah, not in your case.
Okay.
But I think for a lot of people, it's more psychological. And where that comes from a lot of the times is that, you'll hear people they'll be on a diet for a couple of weeks or even a couple of months and they'll be like, I'm doing really well, I'm doing really good. They feel good about themselves. They've got friends, family, colleagues, all giving them compliments. And believe it or not, that positive reinforcement, for some reason, I don't fully understand the psychology around it, actually enables people to do less. They go, you know what? I've done really well over this past couple of weeks or this past couple of months. I'm going to reward with myself with X food or X habit or X this that actually got me in that place, in that mess in the first place. And what tends to happen there is that, you either have an overconsumption of calories or you don't exercise as much because you believe you deserve not to because you've been good.
Yeah.
And often what happens there, you're having an increase in calories and a decrease in activity. And this can be really difficult to navigate. You're going to have your family go or your friends or your partner go, are you still tracking your food? You've done fantastic. You've lost 20 pounds. Like, why are you still doing that? I think you look great. And I think a lot of those, I don't think people are being mean or negative in that sense. I don't think they actually realize what they're saying or doing. But it's not about what anyone else thinks about you. It's always about what you think about yourself. So if you are still unhappy with where you're at, you kind of have to take those comments. You have that kind of take them and say thank you, but I'm going to keep doing what I want to do because it's important that I get where I want to be. But that's easier said than done. I think a lot of people are very influenced by partner, friends, family, colleagues. Isn't tracking getting obsessive? You're training so much in the gym. You look great. What are you doing? Versus that person might still feel maybe like they want to lose more weight or they want to get in better shape. So from a psychological standpoint, those things get in people's head. Have you ever experienced this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. This weekend just gone.
Yeah.
Because so Saturday just gone was my baby sister's bridesmaid dress fitting. So to kind of backtrack a bit and explain.
Sorry, I'm going to just butt in a little bit. Can we just say a fucking massive well done to you because you've lost how much weight now?
This is what I was getting to. So basically, right. So I've lost 55 pounds. And realistically, I realised this just over a year. I've actually been trying to do this for 22 months.
Okay.
From the day my baby sister messaged me to say she wanted me to be a bridesmaid. And I immediately rang my mum and cried and went, I can't do this. I can't do this. Because back then I was 55 pounds heavier. Yeah. And I'd seen the style of dresses. My sister's 12 years younger than me. And her two very beautiful mates were going to be bridesmaids. And it was me and my other sister, Rach, who's a couple of years younger than me. So we were like the old bridesmaids. And we
Yeah.
got sent these pictures of these are the dresses I found. They're amazing. And they were satin spaghetti straps. Now, if you are listening audio only, I have very large boobs. And there ain't no
That's an
way.
understatement.
It's an understatement. There ain't no
Yeah,
way those
yeah.
spaghetti straps were holding up these 32 double H's or 34Ks as they were back then.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? And I panicked and I
Yeah.
cried and I rang my mum and I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. So that kind of started my journey. And then I tried on my own. I did fasting. I did really restrictive diets and I yo-yoed like a lot of people do. And then at the start of January 2021, you gifted me Kelly Bamber.
Yeah, the amazing Kelly Bamber.
Amazing Kelly Bamber, who's
Yeah.
coached my head more than anything else.
I'm sure we should say Kelly's a body smart coach.
She is.
Yeah.
And she's just been incredible. And with Kelly's help, she did have to have a word with me back in July and said, listen, your weight loss has plateaued.
Yeah.
Your tracking's not on point. We need to do it. So I had set myself a goal of Saturday just gone that I'm going to lose these final 23 pounds and get into that bridesmaid dress. And I did it. And I did it. And it felt incredible. But of course, the very next day, it was like everything went out the window. And I immediately recognised this by the following evening. I went out for dinner with my husband and I thought, I'm just going to eat what I want. I'm not going to track it. I didn't go to the gym. But I did immediately catch myself and think, ooh, actually, if I carry on doing this, I'm not yet there. I'm still in my fat loss phase. And if I carry on doing this, I am going to undo my hard work. So I think it's really interesting you talk about that complacency that sets in once the compliments start.
Yeah.
Maybe we should coin it that, compliment complacency.
And to a degree it is. I think we convince ourselves we deserve a break. I think other people convince us we deserve a break. They convince us that the actions that we've taken to get the results are not actually the actions that we should keep up, even though a lot of those times those actions are positive for our physical health, our mental health, our overall well-being. I think tracking is the one that maybe gets like the general population where there's like, you can't do that forever. I think a good distinction here is to understand that tracking your food is a skill. It educates you about food, it educates you about calories, macros, portion control, and it is not something you have to do forever. I personally did it for 3 years and I've not tracked food in the last 5 or 6 years. Steph, ironically, my girlfriend, calls me a human MyFitnessPal. But honestly, it's got to the point where with food now that food doesn't stress me out. I'm able to eat what I want when I want, within moderation, of course. But like I had like I'm not even going to get into what I eat because it doesn't matter. It matters like how you navigate this. But I put in the reps with tracking food to get to that point. And the reason why I've brought that one up more particularly is because when we hit these sort of like psychological barriers with a weight loss plateau, normally tracking your food is one of the things that friends, family and colleagues be like, that's really obsessive. Can't believe you're getting the scales out and still doing this. You've been doing it for 6 months or a year. Instead of actually realizing like, actually tracking your food is probably, and being accurate with tracking your food is probably one of the singular biggest things that allow you to be successful with continued weight loss. And a lot of people get it wrong. And when other people start to get in your head and you start to just not track a bit of this, or you should have a little bit of that, that's how these calories start quickly creeping back up, and we can quickly get into a point where we've hit a weight loss plateau because in essence, we've let other people maybe get into our own heads. We also get into our own heads as well. And like I said, like we tell ourselves we deserve sort of time off. And complacency does just kick in. If we think about somebody that, say, has got 50 pounds to lose or 70 pounds to lose versus having 10 or 20 pounds to lose, well, probably the why to lose weight when you had 70 pounds maybe was a lot stronger than it is at 10 or 20 pounds. Why is that? Well, when you've got 70 pounds to lose, maybe your energy is low, maybe you feel unfit, maybe you're tired, maybe you've got poor gut health, maybe you're not feeling as confident as you would like to in certain clothes, versus when you get down to having only 10 or 20 pounds. Well, you've had to become a different person to do that. So you've already actively changed your behaviors and your habits and lots of different things. So now you're in a completely different place. Maybe energy is higher, gut health's better, energy is better. But the desire maybe to just lose that last 10 pounds, last 20 pounds, maybe just isn't as strong as losing that maybe 50 or 70. Anyway, it's relative to you or whoever's listening. And I think that when we get to that point as well, we can then convince ourselves, do feel good that, I'm just not where I want to be yet. You know what I mean? Like I am happy, but I'm just not as happy.
Have you been listening to me? Have you been in my house? Secret cameras
but
listening?
I say this because this is what I hear a lot of clients as they get down to that last 10 or 20 pounds, and everyone goes, why is the last 10 or 20 poans the hardest to lose?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Like, honestly, legit, why? Why is it so hard?
So there is the psychological part of like, you're probably a lot happier with yourself, which
and this is the thing, because I keep looking in the mirror going, you look boss.
Yeah.
Like, I've got some new underwear, for example, and I'm like looking in the mirror, looking at my husband going, look at this. Yeah. Look at this. These boobs are smaller. They actually fit in normal person's bras and not grandma scaffolding anymore. Yeah. And then I'm like, is it worth it? Do I carry on doing this calorie deficit thing because I'm happy where I am?
Yeah. And I think if that is the case, it's always getting to that point where you have to make an important distinction whether you are actually happy with where you're at and not that you still actually secretly want a little bit more. Because if you do, you need to get back tunnel vision to go for that little bit more. Because
I do secretly want a bit more.
What I have seen over the years and years and years of doing this is people get to this point and plateau, and maybe they've let some of those habits like tracking food or their exercise or the steps, maybe they've let that go a little bit. So they've now maybe found like a new set point or plateaued here. So they're not where they want to be, but they're not where they were. So they're happy, but they're not as happy. Yeah. If that is making any sort of sense.
No, I think it does. Yeah.
And because of that, and it can feel harder again to get going to start things back up. So for me, I'm always like, it's day one motivation till you get to your goal. You got to get the blinkers on, and you've got to rally back up that, find another strong reason why to keep taking the actions to move you closer towards your goal, because you're not done yet. And if you get into this sticking point where you're now 10, 20 pounds away from your goal, and you still believe you're in a calorie deficit or a fat loss phase, I've seen this go on where people stay at 10 pounds away from their goal for the next 10 years. So you constantly feel like you're still on a quote unquote diet because you never actually reached the goal that you wanted to. And that is an awful place to be psychologically because you're still dieting, which is not what anyone wants. You want to get to a point where you're just eating to fuel your body. You're eating because food tastes fucking good. You know what I mean? You want to get to that place where you're actually comfortable and confident with your body and your weight. You're actually not in a calorie deficit. You're not quote unquote dieting anymore. You're eating to fuel your body, and that is an important place to get for your physiological, just for your health, for your overall health, your mental health. It is just an important place to get to. But unfortunately, yes, people do tend to hit a weight loss plateau around this time.
I've got a couple of questions off the back of that. Number one, how do you decide what your goal is? So I'm at this point now, and you've asked me this question. What is your goal? And I don't know, because I don't know what it feels like in this body. I don't know what the next £10 off feels like, because I've never been there before. I don't know.
It's a great question. To look sexy as fuck, isn't it?
I'm already looking sexy.
Exactly. No, I know you are. And honest, what your goal is I think that's we're maybe looking for like a binary answer of, is that the right word? Of just like we're looking for a certain, it's this weight.
Yeah.
I think BMI is not bad for overall health and general population. It is skewed, like it says I'm overweight because I'm tall and I've got a lot of muscle. But for some people, it might say they're overweight or obese. But for general population, BMI is actually not a bad indicator of health. So you could look at your weight on either side of what is healthy. But yeah, I think it is getting to a place where, for me, somebody's goal weight should be something that is in alignment with health markers, and something that is also in alignment with maybe like aesthetics and how you physically look. So it's balancing them too. I don't feel like it's one without the other, because some people, and we're definitely not getting into this on this podcast, but you can have like the body positivity movement, that you might have ladies who are a lot higher body weight, but their health markers don't match that. So they feel confident and great in themselves, but their health, if you were to measure them on blood tests and everything else, they wouldn't actually be classed as a healthy individual, which is great that they've got that confidence, but I feel like it needs to be matched and mirrored with the health side of things too. So when somebody asks me what their weight goal should be, I feel like it has to match. Like you want the confidence and you want to have that, of course. I think, and you can have that throughout your whole weight loss journey. But people do tend to feel better when they lose more weight. Not always, but people tend to. And then you've got the other side of it of the health markers. So are you within a healthy BMI? Have you maybe had some blood tests done? And this can also show that you're healthy. In terms of what was the question again? Sorry.
So how do you pick your goal weight?
So I think it changes as well. It changes as you go through different seasons in your life, especially for women. Obviously there's hormonal changes that can have an impact on your weight each month. So you have to be aware of them, because I think that can throw some people out. There's getting pregnant, that can completely change your body, forever and in different ways. And, sometimes you've got to accept changes in weight. Then you can be building muscle, like I know you have.
Yeah.
And I think we've spoke about this in the podcast before. A lot of people think they're building muscle faster than they are, but over months and years, can you add muscle to your frame, and can that change your body weight? Of course. So I think your ideal weight is something where you feel confident, you feel like you look good and you're happy within yourself. And then there's also, being within your health markers. Does that weight change over the years? I think it does. And I don't think it's right to get fixated on a singular number. That's not going to...
Because people do.
They do. And
don't they? And a lot of people... I've got friends who get fixated on a number that they were before they had kids, for example.
A pre-pregnancy weight. Yeah, it comes up a lot.
And I'm like, why do you want to go back? You're not the same person. Why are we so intent on getting back into my pre-pregnancy genes or pre-pregnant... I'm not the same person I was before I was a mum. And... that fixation with going back, I don't know, it upsets me a little bit. It's one of my bugbears. Like, no, go forward and see who you can be moving forward. Stop trying to jump in the past, because I don't know about anybody listening, like the me back then, I was a bit of a knobhead. I much prefer the me now. my next question was going to be, right, so one thing we haven't talked about yet, and this is my driver right now. This is my why. My why, you actually mentioned the wording before, and it's on my Body Smart Goals wallpaper on my phone. My why is because I'm not done yet.
Okay.
Because I want to see what I can do, and I'm not done yet. And I'm really excited about getting to that point where I can do the diet after the diet.
The reverse
diet. Because I've never done it before. I've never got to that point where you're able to work with somebody to find that level that your body's at. Like you were just talking then, you know, some people will stay in that place of gaining and losing that same 10 pounds over and over again for years and years, doing fad after fad. I don't want to do that anymore.
No, definitely.
I want to smash these last 10 pounds and then figure out how the heck my body gets to be moving forwards for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And that's a really important distinction that I think a lot of people miss, is that losing weight is not a forever journey. I think a lot of women have been on a weight loss journey from a very young age. And frighteningly, that's actually getting younger, because I know this because we have people message the page who are like 12 and 14 and we're like, unfortunately.
Really?
Oh yeah, and we're like, unfortunately, we can't give you advice, but this is how,
that's sad, isn't it?
This is how early some of these girls are being, seeing stuff on Instagram and want to obviously lose weight and are asking questions. But a lot of the ladies that we do coach, even in their 30s, they will say, I've been on a diet for 15 years. So they've been actively trying to lose weight for 15 years and still not figured it out. So, half of their life has been trying to lose weight. So it almost becomes part of your identity to some degree. For a lot of these ladies, they've never heard of a reverse diet or sustaining. They just know dieting, losing weight. If we were to look at like how this sort of goes, we break it down into sort of 3 phases, which is phase 1 is the fat loss phase or the weight loss phase, which is you lose as much weight or fat as you want until you get down to a body composition that you feel comfortable, confident, and healthy with, which is what we were talking about before. What that number looks like for you, going to be very individual to you, given on multiple different factors. Once you get to that point, there's no longer then to be in a calorie deficit. So I'll say calories and energy because they mean the same thing. Calories do mean energy. So when we're looking to lose weight, we consume fewer calories a day than our body burns. And this is known as a calorie or an energy deficit. Our body then has to look elsewhere for that energy. And it often uses like fat or muscle and breaks that down and uses that as energy. So once we've now got down to our goal weight, there's no reason for us to be in this calorie deficit anymore. So we need to now bring our calories back up to maintenance. The thing is, on maintenance, calories has probably changed if you've lost a significant amount of weight. So what we might have to do then is we do a reverse diet where we slowly and incrementally bring calories back up from a calorie deficit to a calorie maintenance, because it's going to be different and it's different for everyone. It's not like it's not as simple as like, this is your number and this is the number you're going to get to.
And also it's important to note that I'm going to use these as just literally as an example. Let's say somebody's in 1,500 calories a day as a deficit and their maintenance calories are 2,100.
Yeah.
You're not going to jump from 1,500 to 2,100 the day after you reach goal, are you?
So I don't have any studies or data to back this up. This is just from what I've seen in person. You can do that, actually. You can do that, but I would only do that with certain people. So if I've got like somebody who's never really dieted that much and is maybe like quite active and they've not been through like multiple cycles of yo-yo dieting, there's probably a high probability that they've got and I'm not going to get too much into this, but fewer fat cells than the next person. So they can maybe just jump right back up from a calorie deficit to calorie maintenance. They might see a couple of pounds of water retention and water gain or weight gain from that, but then it'll just sort of quickly level back out. Versus that, if you've had somebody that's been dieting for 15 years, what you can have like an increased rate of refeeding. So if you were to just do that, instead of just slowly bringing that calories back up to find that set point, you might start adding a lot of fat on in between that. And that can psychologically hurt the person or the client who's doing that. So for most of our clients, we don't do it over it's normally anywhere between a 4 and maybe up to like a 16-week window that we will reverse diet a client. And what we're doing there is, as we said, bringing that calorie deficit up to a calorie maintenance, and we're bringing them up in incremental steps because there are actually multiple problems that can occur here, which is that if you've dieted for 15 years, the idea of eating more food is actually a little bit frightening and a bit scary and anxious. Yeah. What do you mean I get to eat more calories? No, I don't want to gain that weight back. There's a lot of fear behind that. So obviously we coach people through like, no, this is a good thing. This is where your body needs to get to for your holistic health and everything else. We start to bring those calories back up, and then we eventually find that new set point, which for a lot of clients, they still cannot believe they can eat that much food and not gain weight because this is like utopia to them. They didn't know. What do you mean sustain and maintain? What do you mean I can eat like 2,200 calories a day and not gain weight? It does feel like such a foreign place, and it isn't talked about in the industry or with diets. So for a lot of people, it's bewildering to a lot of our clients. So we reverse diet. We get up to that maintenance, and then this is now like phase 3, but this is like the most crucial phase. So this is like sustain and maintaining your results. And unfortunately, a lot of people, it's something like 85 to 95% of people who do lose weight regain it over sort of the next 2 years. And that's often down to the habits and behavior changes and maybe the level of restriction that they put on themselves to achieve that goal. And because they probably don't do a reverse diet and maintenance. But then, as you said, learning to sustain and maintain your new life, even if it takes you 2 or 3 years to lose weight, that is a season, that is a phase in your life.
Yeah.
Once you then reach that goal, the goal now is to sustain and maintain the weight that you've lost and then focus on the rest of your life.
Yeah.
What's the average life expectancy in UK? Like 83 or something?
80 something, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's just like, even if you take you 3 years to get to your goal, you've still then got like the rest of your life where you're going to eat
that
food.
Actually makes me, take a big deep breath and go, you're right. I'm putting all this pressure on myself to get it done. And actually, it doesn't matter if this next 10 pounds, which we know is hard, it doesn't matter if it takes me a bit longer because it's taken me 20 years to get to this point. I've hopefully got another 40 years after.
Yeah.
And I know you, the coaching team in particular, always talk about this being an education and this being like a semester in yourself.
It is.
Doing Body Smart coaching is like taking a course in yourself and learning about yourself,
100%.
which is the most important course.
Well, you said before,
you could ever do.
You said before, you reached a point when you hit a goal and then you went out and celebrated with food and this, but then instantly self-awareness kicked in. It did. Which maybe you didn't have that previously.
Oh, I didn't, no.
So you were able to instantly recognize a behavior that didn't serve you and change the actions moving forward. So you've obviously gone through those experiences in the past, and through self-awareness are now able to use that experience to make sure that you don't make those mistakes moving forward. And stuff like that is so key and critical for sustaining and maintaining weight loss, because you're not going to keep tripping over yourself.
And I've got a tip on that actually, and you mentioned it earlier on. It's to do with identity. So if you have been a person for years who's been off a diet, on a diet, off a diet, on a diet, you probably talk about it with your friends, you talk about it with your family. Particularly, I haven't done this, but I've got friends who've done like Slimming World for 17 years, one of my mates has been doing Slimming World for, and they
which
go,
is mad.
but that's,
it's a community.
it's
I
a
do get it.
community, but they have been in that cycle for such a long time. And I keep trying to say to myself, these actions, I'm doing these because this is the new me that I wanted to be. This is my identity. And I was listening to one of our client stories, Emma, who was coached by our head coach, Stacey. And Emma was talking about her reverse dieting process and how once she reached it, all of a sudden she thought, oh, I don't have to meal plan anymore.
Yeah.
And Stacey was like, why would you stop doing something that helps you feel more organised with your family? It's nothing to do with your fat loss phase. So Emma was like, yeah, you're right. And now spends 10 minutes on a Sunday evening planning out the meals for the week, which helps them budget, helps the family know, helps them do the shopping properly, because that's her identity moving forwards.
Yeah.
And it's about reframing that one small action as being a part of the rest of her life rather than Emma in the fat loss phase.
It's true. It's very true.
Yeah.
And that is a big shift to make. Like we just said before, a lot of our clients, 50% of their life is being on a diet. So to go into something else that's now, oh, this is different. It feels very different. So, the reverse diet is, we're getting into very much now, like we spoke earlier about the psychological reasons, which is complacency and people getting in your way and getting in your own way and getting in your head. Doing a reverse diet and getting to maintenance is very much like the physiological things that you need to do to sustain successful weight loss and sustainability.
So going back to weight loss plateaus then, because I'm still in this weight loss plateau, and ignoring my nice, lovely, beautiful Sunday dinner that I had on Sunday. It was only one meal. One meal's not going to make me fat, is it?
No.
And it's just water weight because I had lots of roast potatoes, isn't it?
You do. There's 1 gram of carbs is like 3 to 4 grams of water. So you will.
Love that data. Love that fact. Love that fact. When it comes to weight loss plateaus, I'm going to come out with something that people always ask.
Go on.
Is it because I'm in starvation mode? What is starvation mode?
So starvation mode is where people believe that you're eating so few calories that your body stops losing weight. And if anything, you might even start gaining weight. So this is impossible. If you're in an energy deficit, a calorie deficit, there is a negative energy gap and the body has to find that energy from somewhere else. So you will lose weight. And so that's where what starvation mode, or what people believe starvation mode is. That isn't true. And, these are very extreme examples to use, and I don't really like using them, but you kind of have to. People die of starvation every day in countries all around the world. People die of anorexia every day all around the world. This is because those people are in a negative energy gap. If we look at what dieting is in its purest form, you are doing controlled starvation. Like a dieting and the way we talk about it in a fat loss phase is controlled starvation. In a controlled manner, you starve yourself so your body eats itself. And your body...
I don't know whether I like that or not.
Yeah.
You were like, it's really powerful. You said this to me a few weeks ago. That's a really powerful visualization. I was like, I don't know if I like it or not. My body is eating itself.
That is what it's doing to keep it, because your body requires energy consistently. 24 hours a day, your body is burning energy all the time. And if we're in a negative energy gap, our body has to keep finding that energy to keep our vital organs, pumping and working. And when we run out of energy is where we can start to have organ failure and eventually die. And that is what happens when people die of starvation or die of anorexia. They have literally been in a negative energy gap, void for so long that vital organs do start to shut down. And it's a very grim thing to go down, but I think people have to understand the distinction of starvation mode doesn't exist. If you are in an energy deficit or a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. If you are no longer losing weight, it's because you are no longer in a calorie deficit. Now there are other reasons, why. There's something else called metabolic adaptation.
Talk to me about this. This is come on. This is the juicy stuff.
This is the juicy stuff.
I want to learn about.
So this can get a little bit confused with starvation mode sometimes. So metabolic adaptation is also known as adaptive thermogenesis. And this is like your body trying to restore homeostasis in the body. So if you imagine that when you, if we just understand energy balance from its purest form, we've got calories in, which is all the calories that you consume on a day-to-day basis from food, drink, gum, snacks, anything else, anything that has calories in. That's your calories in. Your calories out is your metabolism, which people get, I think metabolism gets really confused. This is actually known as your total daily energy expenditure, which is broken down into 4 key parts. So we have our basal metabolic rate. You like to call these your coma calories.
These are the calories you'd need if you were in a coma. That's how
Basically.
I explain it to people. But that really helped me, that visualization, because if you're doing nothing else, this is the bits, this is the energy you need just to function.
Yeah, if you were to lie in bed all day, you would still need a large chunk of calories just because you're lying in bed and your heart's pumping, you're breathing, your body still requires, you're keeping a certain body temperature, your body still requires energy. Your basal metabolic rate makes up about 60% of your calorie burn. Then we also have your non-exercise activity. So this is all your non-planned movement. So I'm talking to you now and I'm talking with my hands quite a lot. And I do talk with my hands. We're nodding our heads, even our lips moving.
Blinking.
Yeah, blinking. Typing with your fingers. All of these things, as minute as they might seem, burn calories. And this actually, depending on whether you've got an active job and various other factors, can make up anywhere between 20 and 40%, even 50% of your calorie burn over the course of a week. Then we've got your exercise activity thermogenesis. So this is how many calories we burn off exercise per week. For most people, this is around 5 to 10%. So not as large of a chunk as people believe. Obviously, if you're active in sports and you're very active with your training, this can be a lot higher. But for most people, it's between 5 and 10%. And then we have the thermic effect of food, which is how many calories we expend on digestion. So what happens is when we go into a calorie deficit or an energy deficit, we are, and I do, if anyone's watching, I do this with my hands a lot, where I bring one hand higher than the other or one hand lower. With a lot of our clients, we like to increase output, so we get them more active, and then decrease input, and this creates that negative energy gap, that calorie deficit. What metabolic adaptation does, and Layne Norton's got a great series on YouTube on this called...
explain who Layne Norton is for people who might not know who he is.
Layne Norton's been in the industry for many, many years. He's a nutritionist, a scientist. He's
a super geek and he's really cool following.
He's a great guy to follow. He's one of the people who's very much against facts, not fads, like we are, and puts out a lot of, beats down the bullshit, pretty much. So he's definitely worth a follow on Instagram, on YouTube. You'll get a non-BS approach on what you need to hear very much from him. So he's got this series called Your Body's Self-Defense System, and goes through various things, and one of them is metabolic adaptation. So as we're in this, we've created this energy deficit, which is to lose weight, fat loss. Our body is going to try to restore this as best it can. And how is it going to do that? Well, it's going to do it by actually affecting all 4 parts of your metabolism. So as we start to lose weight, your basal metabolic rate will decrease, because weight and fat and muscle has burns energy, burns calories. So about 1 pound of fat burns around 2 to 3 calories per pound. So if you to lose
55 pounds, that's why I'm like, my God, this makes sense. Yeah, if you're going to lose 55 pounds, that's a lot less.
So you're burning fewer calories. So this is, 55, times 2 to 3. And then, you're going to have 100 to 150 fewer calories a day that you now need.
I've just realized something.
Go on.
That's why when I do my workouts, I know you shouldn't go off your fitness watch.
Yeah.
But that's why my calories burned on my workout now is nowhere near what it was.
Yeah. And we're going to get into that one. So, right now we're on basal metabolic rate, which is one part of your metabolism. Yeah. That is going to reduce as you lose weight. So you're going to burn fewer calories. There's other things that can change in your BMR, and there's studies coming out all the time. The hard part with studies and nutritional studies is it's actually really hard to monitor, and to get large groups of people to monitor every moment that they're eating the food and everything else. But there's more studies coming out about metabolic adaptation, and these are the things the data that we've got at the moment, and it does change over time, which is great, because we're learning more all the time. But your basal metabolic rate will drop depending on how much weight you've lost. Then you've got your non-exercise activity. Now this has been shown off a lot of studies and data to be the one that can shift and change the most when people diet. Now, like we said, this is your fidgeting, your movements with your hands, your walking, all your non-planned exercise. And when you've been dieting for a long, long period of time, you will just inherently start moving less. Your body is trying to restore homeostasis. It's trying to get you back to a calorie maintenance. So you'll just naturally start, when you think about it, it's non-planned movement. So you won't consciously realize that you're not moving your hands as much. You won't consciously realize that you've stopped tapping your leg You don't realize you're doing this. This is your body's own self-defense system trying to get you to move less, to burn fewer calories, to restore the energy balance in your body. Now, the reason I say this is the biggest one is because, it's being shown in some people that it can go down as much as 500 calories per day, which is enormous.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that's your NEAT, and that's definitely something to be aware of. So the basal metabolic rate, you don't really have too much control over that one. So I won't go into it too much. Your non-exercise activity, how can you fight back against this? Tracking your steps, you know what I mean? Like if you were to go, hey, I was doing 10,000 steps a day, and then I started a fat loss phase a couple of weeks ago, and now I'm doing 6,000 steps a day. That is a clear sign of metabolic adaptation, making you move less without you even consciously realizing.
Right.
But you can go and study the data that you maybe have on your phone and realize, oh shit, I'm walking less.
Yeah.
And that's one part of it. Then there's obviously all those other movements that we talked about. Then you've got your exercise activity thermogenesis. So you might not show up to as many sessions because you feel tired, you feel lethargic, you're not sleeping as well. If you do show up to them sessions, are you training as intensely? Are you training as hard as you was in the beginning? Probably, maybe you might be. Some people are, but some people aren't. And again, this is metabolic adaptation, trying to restore that energy balance again and tip the scale. And then we've got the thermic effect of food, which isn't really shown to have too much of an effect within metabolic adaptation. So this is, again, like one of your body's self-defense systems. And if we think about why our bodies do this, food has only really been in abundance, maybe the last 80 years. Before that, it was very much scarce and we didn't just have an abundance of calories. So through evolution, our bodies have become really efficient at using fat and using energy, and that's to keep us alive, basically. It's now we've had thousands of years of evolution to this point. And then in the space of 80 years, it's like, oh no, there's all the calories and high palatable foods and calorie dense foods in the world, and they're very, very cheap. So our body's just like, yep, give me, store. So we have to be aware that metabolic adaptation can happen. And I do believe, to an extent it has happened with yourself, because not only have you lost a considerable amount of weight, which is 55 pounds, but you've also done it over a longer period. I think you've done it in the right speed for you. Let's set that one straight. But because you've done it over a longer period of time, these changes in metabolic adaptation can happen. They slowly can happen. Yeah. For some people, this is an important distinction as well. Some people can have metabolic adaptation kick in really fast, and some people it can slowly happen over time. There's no test to figure this out. You kind of just have to track what you're doing and understand it. I've had clients who have literally dieted for 2 weeks and they've just stopped walking for some reason. They're just like, I'm knackered. I'm just too tired. I can't do this anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's 2 weeks in versus someone else that might be 6 months in. So there's no way to fully measure this. And this is why it's really important to track the data and understand what's going on. But yeah, if you do find yourself getting to a point of where you believe maybe metabolic adaptation has kicked in and you've hit a weight loss plateau, these are physiological reasons of your body trying to get you to slow down. And what it's best to do in this situation is to take what we call a diet break. Now, this is not to be confused with eat whatever the fuck you want.
Or a cheat day, which we don't like that phrase, do we?
Yeah, this is still a part of your overall weight loss journey, which is you're maybe going to quickly reverse diet your calories back up, or maybe go back to a lower maintenance calories, and you're going to stay here for either 1 to 2 weeks, even as long as a month. And the goal here is that when we're in prolonged periods of being in a diet, you start to have hormonal changes in the sense of things like ghrelin go up, which is known as the hunger hormone. We also get this released when we have a poor night's sleep, and that can affect our appetite. We can just feel hungry all the time, which can make it harder to sustain the diet. Again, this is a part of metabolic adaptation. I feel hungry, eat.
I call it the ghrelin gorilla.
The ghrelin gorilla.
Yeah, since you told me about ghrelin, I imagine it as this gorilla that makes me hungry.
Yeah. So, we've got the things we talked about, your energy output in terms of they're all things that are trying to get you to burn fewer calories, from your metabolism, your BMR, you eat the thermic effect of food. But then on the other side is how can we just eat more? So your body will do other things as well, like release more ghrelin. You feel hungrier. The likelihood of you over consuming calories is higher. Then you have other things like leptin, which is a hormone that is decreased when you diet. And if anyone has dieted for a long period of times, and I've had experienced this myself, is that when you are dieting and then let's say you've got a calorie goal, I've had it where I've eaten 1,000 calorie dinner because I've just bulked a lot of my calories to the end of the day, and I've eaten it and just felt like I could eat 3 more.
Yeah, what is that all about?
That is, again, your body you just feel like an empty, like a bucket that could just never be filled. And again, it's your body trying to restore a level of homeostasis in the body and tip that scale back. It's just going eat to try and get you to balance back out, to restore a calorie maintenance or even to gain that weight back. So these are physiological things that you are fighting against when you're in a diet. And it's important to be aware of them. Like I said, I think sometimes people lean into them too much, but it is something that does happen because your body is at the end of the day trying to keep you alive. So yeah, we've got the physiological things that affect your calories burnt, and then you've got the physiological things that trying to get you increase your calories in.
Do you reckon as well there might be, I've got a question. So on my check-in with Kelly this week, I said that I've noticed I've been doing something recently with my language.
Okay.
Because I'm at that final 10 pounds, I've been saying things like, it's just really hard.
Yeah.
It's just like, and I think I've been doing this to compensate for other people because I'm seeing more people now. And I've got friends who've gone, oh my God, wow, you've lost a lot. You look amazing. Yeah. And I know they don't feel great about themselves. So I say things like, oh, it's just so fucking boring. And yeah, it's just so hard. Yeah. And actually, I don't mean that. And I think I've noticed it this week.
Well, you shouldn't say it then, Jen.
I know.
You've got to live your truth.
Well, I've said this to Kelly because she said to me, and how are you going to change that? And I was like, I am loving the new strong me. This is an exciting phase in my fat loss journey. I can't wait to get to reverse dieting. Yeah. But I do think that I don't know whether it is part of this metabolic adaptation. The ghrelin and the leptin and the mind monkeys are saying to me, go on, it's hard, give in. It's hard, give in. I wonder if there is some kind of link that's making my brain think that way. And therefore it's coming out as this negative language. Yeah. And I think a lot of people will possibly relate to that listening. It's so hard. It's so boring. I'm off the wagon. All that kind of language that we use to ourselves.
But language is so important because you're the one who has to live in that brain, live in that head. And if that's the language you're saying to other people and then possibly saying to yourself, it can start to have a real negative impact. So I think weight loss plateaus, there's the psychological part, the complacency and everything else. And there's also the physiological things and the metabolic adaptation that can kick in. For most people, in my experience, metabolic adaptation isn't going to kick in unless you've been dieting for a prolonged period of time.
Okay.
I'm talking like over 3 months, over 6 months, lost over 30 pounds, 40 pounds, 50 pounds. For a lot of people, it does more so come down to just like they're not doing some of the basics and they possibly have got a little bit complacent. That's in my experience. I ain't got any data to back that up other than the fact I've coached thousands of people.
And I think tracking as well is, I have to say I've been tracking on and off for, oh my goodness, must be 10 years now. Yeah. And this week, I learned something from our head coach, Stacey. She said something on a video where she says, don't just sit there and track your food. Don't just scan it, study it. Yep. Learn.
100%.
And I was like, why have I never thought to do that before? Yep. And it makes me feel really stupid that I'd never thought to sit, track a chicken breast. How much protein's in that? Yeah. How
So I'm really happy you've said that. Like, how much? What? Go on.
But it's just like, why? She's so right. Don't just scan it and not think about it. It's really easy to track numbers, but actually, what's more powerful is tracking and learning. Yeah. 100%. So you can become a human MyFitnessPal like you.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I don't know if this makes me sound old. I don't know if MyFitnessPal did exist, but I didn't use MyFitnessPal when I first started tracking. So I had the old pen and paper looking at the back of the packet of food. It would say per 100 grams, I might weigh out 60, and then I'd have to do the math and work out what 60 was. So it was actually, for a level of decision fatigue, it was easier to just stick to what I kind of knew I'd already worked out than to have MyFitnessPal just automatically do all the numbers for you. But I think that's a really important distinction there that you've mentioned, because I do see, you said there you tracked for 10 years. I said I tracked for 3. And I think that's where, some of our clients are tracking for 18 months and never having to track again. Yeah. And the reason that is because they're learning about foods, they're learning about portion control, calories, macros, they're learning, there's not like, we're not inventing new foods every day. It's not like those jelly beans have just been created today and it's like, oh, this is a new food. Yeah. There's probably like 40 to 60 foods that you eat on a regular basis. Like, we are creatures of habit. And it's like, so if you just looked at, like, I've got 40 to 60 foods to learn inside out, know every calorie, macro, micronutrient, you can be like, oh, that's so much work. We'll do 1 a week. I'll do 2 a week. You know what I mean? Just like learn those foods inside out, learn the portions. I try and get clients now to look at, because we've been trying to gamify a lot of stuff, is that if you look at level 1 of tracking food, is that you're a complete beginner. You know nothing about food, nothing about calories, macros. You know nothing.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Nothing.
And then level 100 is probably like, where am I? Like you can
mastermind.
Yeah, you just like, you can go out and eat and it won't stress you out. You can pull back. Like, you know, I might overeat one day and I'll just fast the next day and just balance it back out. For some people that would stress them out so much, but for me, I've done it for years. I just feel confident in it. So that's like level 1, that's level 100. I tend to see a lot of people get to like level 40. I'm just making this up, but let's get level 40-ish, where it's kind of like, I kind of know how to track. I know how to use calories, macros, but I don't know it inside out.
Yeah.
And you kind of get stuck there instead of being like, what did Stacey say? It was
learn it.
Learn it.
And let me tell you something I learned this week, that's something I have tracked on a regular basis. Butter is wrong in MyFitnessPal. It's got a green shield on it, which says it's right, and it's not. It's wrong.
Right.
And so when I've been tracking and learning, what I've been doing is I've been, let's say, I don't know, what did I do the other day? Like a packet of spinach or something. And then I looked at the back of the packet to the database on MyFitnessPal, and actually they didn't match.
Yeah.
They weren't right. And for a little period of time, a couple of months ago, I was using Fitbit, because they've got a food database on Fitbit.
Yes. Yeah.
It takes a bit longer, but you can input your own data a lot more. It's quicker than it is on MyFitnessPal. I don't know why. It just takes less steps.
Yeah.
So I might actually go back for this last £10 to tracking on Fitbit, and it being a bit more work, but inputting those numbers, because I want to use it as an educational exercise.
100%.
I want to do those numbers and have to put them in properly, so I learn.
View it as a skill. Like I think this is, you know, there's lots of things. People go, that's so overwhelming, that's so much to do. Like there's loads of things you do in your job right now that when you first started doing them were hard as fuck, and now they're easy. You do them like the back of your hand. Like we said before, if you're going to live to 83, if that's the life expectancy, you've got 40 years ahead. Is it not worth putting the next 3 to 6 months into learning food like the back of your hand? Because that literally is a skill that's going to last you the rest of your life. Yeah. I just think that is such an ROI positive. That is one of the best return on investments that you can do, is to learn food inside out. Like, what does food do? Not only can it help you achieve your weight loss goals, it can give you energy, it can make you feel good, it can give you good gut health, you can have more energy for activities, for your job, you can show up better, you can have better cognitive abilities and performance, you have more energy for your kids. Like food plays such a huge role, and you're going to eat food every day till the day you die. Yeah. Like, is it not worth putting in that time and the reps to learn food inside out?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So,
and it's funny there on tracking, because that is one thing. Tracking accurately is something actually we haven't covered. You know, you hit that weight loss plateau, and there are so many ways where you might not track accurately.
100%. This is probably one of the number one issues we face with clients, and that's because it is hard. Yeah. So, really common thing that gets said, I'm in a calorie deficit, but I'm not losing weight. What people are actually saying there, without realizing, is that what we see is either they've overestimated their output, so they think they're burning more calories than they actually are, because maybe they've got a smartwatch that says, hey, you've burnt 3,000 calories today. And really, you're like Gemma, and you're just typing really fast, and your watch is clocking up loads of calories burned.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
And then, so a lot of people think they're burning more calories than they are, which obviously that makes you feel confused. What do you mean I'm burning 3,000 calories, but I'm only eating 1,500 and I'm not losing weight? Yeah. The common things that people say. And then also people are eating more than they actually believe. So is it Debbie, one of the videos that we've got on tracking calories?
Yeah, she's an actress, isn't she? We should explain this. So it was from a BBC documentary. There's a wonderful, amazing person called Debbie. She's an actress, and she just thinks she's got a problem with, she thinks she's got a slow metabolism.
She does. Yeah.
So they take her through all of these tests, including drinking this amazing drink, which tells the scientist exactly how many calories that she's consumed. And what does she do? She does a paper diary.
So she does a paper diary. So I think she tracks after she eats. Then she tracks before she eats. Yeah. And then I think she does a video camera log on the last one. But on the last one, they also get her to drink this solution that she pees it back out, and they know exactly how many calories that she's eating. Anyway, on each one, she was like wildly out with how many calories she ate, by like between 1,000 and 2,000 more calories. They also tested her metabolism. When her metabolism was fine, she didn't have a slow metabolism, and she was like, oh, that's an excuse I can't hold on to anymore, which is what we do as human beings. We latch onto things that justify maybe our actions of the way we are, even though that might not always be the case. And there's lots of reasons behind that, but we won't get into it. But yeah, so she does this, and a lot of it just does come down to the fact that she wasn't tracking her food accurately. And that's because it's hard. You know, you just literally said the thing on butter there. There's so many little things that can catch you out. And
even just tracking retrospectively. It's funny, one of my friends said to me last week, like, you look great, I want some help. So I said, screenshot me MyFitnessPal out of interest, because it's usually, and I bet you do this as a coach, right?
Yeah.
All of her entries were 100 grams, 50 grams, 100 grams, 50 grams. And I'm like, bingo, you ain't tracking properly. Because if you were, they'd say 41, 63.
Exactly. And I think a big part of this, honestly, just comes down to decision fatigue for a lot of people. Like, it's just easier to just click the 100 grams and select that in. My point is, if you're going to go to the effort to track your food, you may as well do it right. You may as well do it properly. And what I would say is, if you've hit a weight loss plateau and you believe, and I'm going to say for the vast majority of people listening, it will be down to the fact that you're not tracking your food accurately. The best thing to do is actually to dial back the amount of ingredients that you have on a day-to-day and a week-to-week basis. Bring it down, dial it back, weigh and track everything as anally as you can, and then make sure the scale starts moving again. And then once the scale starts moving again, start adding in more ingredients and more foods and more variety. And then that's going to add, and if the weight stops or anything, you can quickly address and problem solve what that was. A lot of people have got like an abundance of different ingredients. They've eaten out here, they've eaten out there.
Yeah.
You don't. The best way I try and describe when people go, "Oh, I went and ate out and I had a lasagna, and I tracked it. I found lasagna on MyFitnessPal and it was 800 calories. It's probably more like 2,000. And a way of thinking about this, which I explained to one of our clients, Sean, the other week, is going into a restaurant and just picking a food and then expecting to know how many calories it is, would be like going into a shopping mall and picking up a handbag and a pair of trousers and going over to the counter, not checking the price, and just go on, put up my credit card. And then you get home and you're like, holy shit, that cost how much?
Yeah.
You, like, when you go and eat out at a restaurant, you do not know like what it's being cooked with, what it's being made with, and there's a level of guesswork there. Now, I'm not trying to dissuade or scare anyone from eating out, but it is increasingly difficult to do that while on a fat loss phase. And if you're eating out on a regular basis, that can 100% be the reason that you may be eating 1,000, 2,000 more calories a week than you actually realize.
Yeah. And there's also, and we'll put a link to this in the show notes and the video notes on YouTube. There's a really good infographic that we've got about licks, bites, and tastes.
Yeah.
All adding up, those little nibbles of
it's crazy.
Hershey's Kisses and a little nibble of a Mars bar and how much they all add up. That was mind-blowing for me learning that. That really helped.
If you ever want to see how distorted your version of portion control is, go and get a tub of Nutella or peanut butter and put it on a weighing scales and hit the 0 button, and then put in and take out the normal serving size that you'd have, that you think is a serving size, and then look at what the scale says minus, like it'll say like minus 52 or something. You're like, what? That's like 300 calories in a teaspoon. And it's like, because you've got a heaped teaspoon. And there's just little things like that. Like that might be 200 more calories than you realized, and something else might be 300 more calories and 100 more calories. And all of a sudden, without you're tracking your food, and your food is saying, example numbers here, you're eating 1,600 calories a day. That's your calorie deficit. But in matter of fact, you're actually eating 2,400 calories a day because you don't realize all these little things haven't been tracked accurately or accounted for. So you're telling yourself, I'm putting in all this effort. I'm trying so hard. I'm tracking all my food. I'm in a calorie deficit, but I'm not losing weight. You might even think it's metabolic adaptation, but matter of fact, you're just not tracking your food as accurately as you need to be.
So your big top tip is to go back to as few ingredients. I'm taking this on board. I'm doing it myself, because you're right. You are absolutely right. As few ingredients as possible. Whole foods where I can. That 80-20 balance. Yeah. And then give it how long do you reckon before like you go, oh, I'm in metabolic adaptation.
I mean, I do think it is different for yourself, Gem, because you have been on a weight loss journey for over a year and you've lost a considerable amount of weight, 55 pounds. So, you know, it's one of them. It's, I think, the hard part, and I think you're probably feeling this a little bit, knowing that you might do a diet break for a couple of weeks. It's like,
what? No.
And that you might gain a little bit of weight. It is frightening. It's like, oh no, but I'm just so close to my goal. Why would I do that? And you kind of have to see it as like almost like a slingshot approach, in the sense of, yeah, it might feel like you're going to gain a bit of weight and take a couple of steps backwards, but it's actually to propel and slingshot you forward, because hormones like ghrelin will go down, so you won't feel as hungry. Hormones like leptin will go up, so you'll feel more satiated when you eat. Then you might have more energy, so you're working out harder. Your non-exercise exercise activity might go up. So all of those things for yourself, I think a diet break could be very advantageous and beneficial for you. But for probably the vast majority of people listening, you need to track your food more accurately. I think if that is one thing, I would say it needs to come down to that. And I'm not saying that you need to have a bland diet that has no variety, but I'm saying probably doesn't hurt to start with fewer ingredients, get that dialed in, and then start to add in a little bit more over time.
We do actually have an ebook called How to Track Accurately. So if anybody is listening and they would like a copy of that, drop me an email, gemma@bodysmartfitness.com, and I'll send it to you. All right, no problem. And I think that nicely wraps up this episode. Oh, thank you for my private coaching session that became a podcast.
No problem.